you're broadcasting to that display, a camera pointed down at an Apple Watch to show off interactions. What we will cover today is the physical device itself as far as hardware. We will talk about the way you interact with it as far as touch and the button usage. We will then talk about the watch app itself, and then activity. Talk a little bit about activity, and whatever time is remaining, we can do questions, we can do refreshers of something earlier in the content. We can talk about other classes to attend, because there are more than just this one that are about Apple Watch. So let's get started. I'm going to take the physical watch, and I'm going to lay it on its side to show off. The only two actual buttons on the watch, they're right there, the top one, the round one up there. That is called the digital crown. So if I refer to the digital crown, I am talking about the one at the top. If I say push it, squeeze it, rotate it, digital crown, that's the one we're talking about. The button underneath it, the side button right here, that is what it's called. It's called a side button. We can refer to that throughout the class when I say press and hold or double click or press it once. That's the button we're talking about. And in between the two is a microphone. So if you're trying to figure out where is it trying to pick up my voice during phone calls or dictations or audio messages, that is where it will pick it up right there from that side. So if that's obscured for any reason or covered up for any reason, you may not get the quality of audio that you'd like if it was covered up. Flip it to the other side. Now we're talking with a Series 4. If anyone does not have a Series 4, it's going to look a little different, but I think you guys are all on Series 4, so we're okay. The other side is our speaker. So that's where the sound for alerts and phone calls and anything that has to be audible will come out of that side. Previous generations, they kept the microphone and the speaker on the same side. This generation, they put them on opposite sides. A little bit better feedback on phone calls specifically. So, underneath the watch, I'm going to turn this inside out for a second. Tons of things going on down here. Let's talk about them. Let's point out what everything is. So first off, the top and the bottom of the watch have release mechanisms to let a band be released. You'll see it there. When I press that in, it allows the band to start to slide out. It releases a magnet that holds it in place, and then you can slide your band out. Now you can change bands, of course, to any style, color, or size, fit, material that you like. We offer a bunch here. There's also a bunch online. There's tons of options, and there's one on each side. So if you haven't practiced with taking your band on and off, give it a shot when you feel it, and you'll get comfortable with taking bands on and off. Very easy. It took Apple to make an easy way to change watch bands. Watches have been around forever, and here we are with my easiest way to ever change a watch band. I've changed watch bands on new tools and like take the little screws out and you lost a screw and hopefully you got a backup. This is just a little release mechanism. So what else is back here? So if you look closely at an angle, you can actually see what kind of watch I have, what series version, what size, and what it is made out of. Aluminum and ceramic, Apple Watch Series 4. So this is kind of what you'd see on any normal watch. When you flip one on the back, it kind of says, you know, made in wherever country. It's made out of stainless steel or gold, 14 karat. Has that kind of watch aesthetic to it. So Apple did the same thing just to stay true to the watch. They added that feature around the outside. Now the center here is our optical sensor for tracking heart rhythms, heartbeats per minute, things like that. That illuminates a green light when it is looking for your beats per minute, for your heart rate. You normally wouldn't see it because it'd be flush against your wrist. So unless it was really dark or you weren't wearing it tight enough, you would never see that green light come on. But it does activate when checking for heart rate. So that's the back of the watch. Turn it back on its side here. So what do these buttons do that we talked about earlier? We talked about the digital crown and the side button. What do they do? How many different ways can they be used to interact with the watch? So let's start with the digital crown. Effectively, if it's just pressed one time, it brings you to basically your app selection screen. Now mine is listed as an actual list Yours might be as a grid of circular bubbles. You can pick between the two choices, show you a little bit of that later, but no, it's the same thing. When you squeeze the button, you may have it. Let me switch it for you so it more aligns with what you guys are seeing. You guys are seeing it like this. And basically this is like your home screen. If you were on an iPhone, you leave, you go back to your home screen. Here are your app icons. You tap one, brings you to it. You can move them around with your finger to get to the right one. You can even kind of zoom in and out by rotating the digital crown to get a better view of what your apps are laid out if it's harder to see. That digital crown when pressed also gets you out of these apps. So if I went into Calendar and now I want to get out of Calendar, it's just like I did before. I just press the digital crown once, I'm back out. Now what if I want to get out of this to get back to my watch face? I can press it again and it'll bring me back to my watch face. So it's kind of like your back exit button, home button, in that sense with just the pressing of the digital crown. Now if we press and hold the digital crown, it activates Siri. Now there's many ways to activate Siri, but that is one of them. By pressing and holding that digital crown, and Siri comes up, and Siri of course is useful for phone calls, text messages, what's the weather like in Honolulu, whatever you guys are interested in, just with your voice, you get a response back. Sometimes you might accidentally activate that if you leaned up against a wall or something with your watch, you might have seen that. Now the other thing that this does, other than pressing once, pressing and holding, is it acts as a way to scroll through items without having to put your finger on the display. So this is not a very large screen, and when your finger is on the screen, it blocks the screen. It's hard to see what you're doing while doing it. A big reason why we haven't done that with our computers is your hand's in the way when you're trying to use your computer that way, and the interface just doesn't work on computers. So let me find a list to show you what I mean. Settings is an app I'm going to go into, and there is a list of settings. Now, of course, I could do this and scroll through my list, but like I said, it does block. You have limited view. It's not like a giant iPad screen. So I hit the digital crown, got to my little bubble, and then found the gearbox. It looks like a little cog right there, a little gear cog. It's gray and white. You just might have to move them around till you find it. That's just one of the reasons I like list view, which I'll show you guys later how to get to list view. So if I wanted to scroll through this list, I could just rotate the crown as if I was like changing the time on a classic watch, and this would move that list up or down so that I could see them without my finger blocking my view, which is very useful when someone sends a long text message and I need to read it on my wrist. As much screen as I can get is as much screen as I want, so I'll keep my finger right out of the way and scroll it. Second reason it's useful is you don't accidentally touch a setting or menu or button or reply when you're not touching the screen. So if someone said, hey, would you like to watch 6 hours of Harry Potter tonight, and I don't want to, but I'm scrolling past no and I accidentally hit yes because I'm touching the screen, now I have to watch 6 hours of Harry Potter. So I'll use this to scroll to the response I want and then engage with the response instead of using my fingers. I have done that. I have accidentally clicked on something, and if I was trying to scroll through this and I accidentally clicked on Wi-Fi, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to forget how to get back because I'm in panic mode now. Like, how did I get to Wi-Fi? I didn't mean to get here. And all my learning of Apple Watches goes out the window. So I suggest, when able to scroll through lists, just try the digital crown. It's new, it's different, it's not something you're used to, but it is a big help. So that's the three things that this digital crown button does. So I'm going to go back to my main watch face. Again, by pressing it a couple times, I get back to my watch face. We're going to talk about what the side button does. So from looking at your time, you press the side button just one time, you squeeze it one time, it brings you to a dock. This is a dock. This dock is your recently used applications. I was just in settings, showing you a demonstration, and settings is now right there at the top because it knows I was just there recently, so it quickly gets me back. And before I was in settings, I was in messages, and before messages, I was in activity. So you could, yes, you could, every time you need to get to something, go here, move the bubbles around, find the settings app, get out of it, find the calendar app. You could do that. Or if you were recently in them, just press the side button and there they are, the things you were recently doing. And they're scrollable. You can scroll through them, and here they all are. They'll adapt, they'll change as your usage changes, it will change. You could also set up in settings the ability to keep things there even if you haven't recently used them. So if checking the weather was something you often do on your watch, but you haven't done it recently, you can ask it to stay there in the dock, and it'll always be there. Weather will always be there, one tap away, as like a favorite. It's like a favorite dock. Similar to on a Mac, you can put your best of the best ones at the bottom. You can have that. So that's what this dock is for here. Again, I'm going to get out of that by pressing the digital crown. Brings me back to my watch face. So we pressed it once. We got the dock. Let's press it twice. It's a double click. Now you're going to see I don't have any cards set up, but this is Apple Pay. Are you guys familiar with Apple Pay? As far as what it is, or anyone new? Is it new to anyone what that is? A little bit? So Apple Pay, it allows you to digitize the same cards that you keep in your wallet, like your physical bank and credit cards, onto the device to pay contactless at gas stations, retail places, grocery stores. More secure than your card because it doesn't keep your real card number, nor does it show your name, keep your security code, expiration date, all that is anonymous. And you can, as long as it's on your wrist, you can double click that, tap at the checkout, and you're paid. We obviously recommend it for keeping things secure. It's a great feature. It's some of the reasons people buy our products is for Apple Pay, honestly. Yeah.
Does it show up on your statement just the same?
Just the same. You on your end, it's no different as far as how the funds is paid. It's the transaction that differs. Okay. It's the way the communication happens to get the money from your bank, your credit card. Okay. So, in the event that, let's say a register at a retail shop is compromised and all the records of that day are seen, all the ones Apple Pay would have empty spaces, making it impossible to reuse the information. So that's what happens when you double tap, and you'd be able to select multiple cards. I keep 4 cards on Apple Pay. One of them I don't even use, but it's there. I've been in a situation where they don't take the type of card. I'm out of town, my one card got flagged for traveling, and so all I had left was that card I never used. And thank goodness I had an Apple Pay. I was able to, pay good gas. All right, press it once, press it twice. Now we're gonna press and hold that side button. That gives you this. It gives you 3 slide over buttons, unless you haven't set up Medical ID, which we'll talk about. And to activate any of them, you have to grab it and slide it. We do not recommend doing this one in store today, of course. We'll talk about it. But this one, you grab it, you slide it, powers off your watch, turns it off. It's not silent, it's not don't disturb, it is off. No power, it is like as good as dead. Center one, Medical ID. You can set this up on your phone if you haven't. If you see it, then that means you have set it up. The idea of this is it's an easy access to getting information. So this person's name is Jack. He's allergic to peanuts. His emergency contact could either be Allison or Cynthia. There's their phone number. There's their blood type. So that's all that Jack has decided to share with his medical ID. But you can opt in for more or less of that. Personally, I don't have any allergies and I'm not on any medication, so mine is just my name, my emergency contact. That's it. And it's there for 2 reasons. For reasons that I can then share that information to someone in the case of an emergency where I am unable to do it normally because maybe I'm in a panic mode and I can't remember what the name of my emergency contact or what their phone number is. And I don't remember how to use an iPhone at that moment because it's just too much to handle, right? So quick, let's slide over. There it is. Here's who we can contact. It's also there for trained medical professionals who can't get that information from you because you're either not able to give it. Well, that's really the only reason, I guess, you're unable to give it. So they could know to go here, they can slide over and say, all right, this is the allergies that they have, and this is who we can contact. If you need an actual medical emergency, that's where the other one comes into play. Let me get out of this. the emergency SOS. So in the event that you are in a situation where you need to seek attention through 911, you could of course try to get your phone out and dial 911, but if your phone's not nearby, what if you're shaken up? You slide that button over, it calls 911, sends them your location, and text messages your contacts that you have in the medical ID section, letting them know that you have activated emergency SOS and here's where you activated it at. So we hope none of this ever happens to anybody, of course, but if you get...
If you look at the phone, does it text anybody else besides your emergency contact? It doesn't, it's not a phone iWatch.
If
you don't have the cellular on it?
If you don't have cellular and you don't have your phone, it won't. You'll need a connection of some kind. You need a cellular connection directly or a companion connection. So if you got 2 flat tires and your phone flew out the window 5 miles back, yeah, you probably wouldn't be in a good spot. But this is also a way to activate emergency services kind of more low-key without making it a whole big thing where, like, you know, there's been situations I've read about where there's been a scenario where someone had Apple Watch and they just silently sort of activated the emergency response team, and you know, they show up and see what's happening and save the day. So that's built in there. It's one of the better features. It's on the phones too, but having it right on your wrist is just accessible and a little bit peaceful to know that you can activate that anytime. All right, so that's what everything that those 2 buttons do. Digital crown and side button. Let's talk about the interface, the actual screen itself. So right now I'm on a watch face. This is a watch face that we chose. It is one of the many templates that you can start with and then customize. So if you haven't seen this watch face like this, it's just one of the choices and you can customize it. We have it customized with all this great information, but you can make it as much as you want. And you can also keep a more simpler watch face with very little information to go back and forth between. Before we get there though, let's talk about interacting with the screen right now. So right now we're at the main, this is basically where the watch would live 90% of the time, will live right here, telling you the time, telling you what day it is, things like that. So let's go into an area called Control Center, which you may have found and have discovered, but we're going to go in detail. And to get to that, you slide from the bottom of the watch up, and it brings you into this area called Control Center. And again, this Control Center is scrollable with the digital crown, so if you need practice with using that to scroll, there it is. So Control Center is quick access to buttons, and some of these buttons are obvious and some of them aren't. So let's talk about all of them. So we have the Wi-Fi symbol. That means we are able to connect our device, our watch, to the Wi-Fi, but we could turn that off by touching it and it would disconnect. If you have a cellular version of an Apple Watch, you'll also see an antenna button, which mine does not have. Ours is a GPS only, but you would see another one. It would be green with the cellular tower. The icon next to the Wi-Fi on my display is the Find My iPhone button. That button right there looks like an iPhone with waves coming off the side. Feel free to test it. It will make your phone make a sound so that you can find it. This is useful because it doesn't matter if your phone is on silent. It doesn't matter if your phone's on Do Not Disturb. It will override those 2 features and let you find it with the audible. Because I keep my phone on silent a lot, and if the old call my phone, I can't find it, only works if it's in a surface that I can hear it vibrating. Couch cushions don't really vibrate, so I was never able to find it in the couch. But this will override that. It will make it ring aloud, and you can kind of narrow your search down till you find it. Then we have battery life. It's very straightforward, 97%, nothing there. This guy here is an on-off switch for silent mode. So when it's pink and slashed out, it just doesn't ring. It's simply like turning the switch on the side of the phone, flicking it back and forth. That's what that button will do. It gets a little bit more advanced though as we scroll down. So let's talk about the crescent moon there. This is Do Not Disturb, and it's not new to Apple Watch. It's been around for iPhone, but it's really great on Apple Watch because you can enable it on your wrist. When you tap on Do Not Disturb, you're basically asking the watch to not vibrate, not to light up, not to ring, not to have any sort of disruptive alert of any kind, and then you get to pick the parameters of that. Do you want it just on, Now on is great because it's on, it's enabled, but if you forget to re-enable the feature, you'll go all day thinking no one's tried to call you, no one's messaged you, you'd be oblivious to all that. So they've now changed it to where you can do it for an hour, or until this evening, and my favorite, or until I leave your current location. So it's figured through our GPS over at the St. John's Town Center. So I can enable that so I can focus on the work that I'm doing. And then when I leave the town center, it'll automatically turn that feature off so I can continue to get my phone calls, text messages, weather alerts, sports scores, all the things I do most on my watch. When it is enabled, which I'll show you, it turns purple. And it gives you a little purple moon at the top as a reminder, in case it's on and you've forgotten that you're in Do Not Disturb mode. That might be why you haven't felt or heard any text messages in the last 8 days. So we're going to turn that back on. If you live far away, call Apple before, make sure they check on this. We've had people drive several hours to get here for us just to like turn this off and say that's why. Because it has a feature, if you call within 5 minutes of one another, you'll get through. You can turn that feature on where they allow them to get through. So they'll be like, sometimes I get calls, sometimes I don't. And it's because they're repeat callers that are calling, like, that's why they didn't answer, calling right back and going through. Because it might be an emergency. We don't want to enable a feature that you can't be getting a hold of. So in settings, you can do that. You can also override favorites and pick people to say, these people can override my Do Not Disturb features. Because I'm in a class teaching you all, but I do have a 4-year-old that is getting over a sore throat, and if I needed to know something was happening, I'd like to know through a persistent call. All right, we're gonna keep going. Next one is theater mode. Theater mode turns on silent mode if it's not already on, and disables the Apple Watch display from turning on when you rotate, or when you get messages, or when you get phone calls. You'll still feel it. The idea of this is if you're at a movie or a show or a play, and you're a busy person, you're getting a lot of texts, you're getting a lot of phone calls, but you don't want Do Not Disturb because you don't want to be oblivious to them happening. You just don't want them to light up every time you get one and disturb your surrounding in your environment. You might like reach for the popcorn, you know, 2 people over, and it thinks you're trying to check the time, so back row is like, oh, I'm trying to concentrate, please don't disturb me. As where this wouldn't do that. It would still light up on every rotation. So how would you get the screen to light up on this mode? You have to touch it. You have to touch the display to get the display to light up. With that mode turned on, you could turn your watch all day long and it's not going to light up. I could text you all day long and it's not going to light up. You have to touch the display. That's theater mode. I like theater mode. All right, well, next we have, it's a raindrop. This is water mode, swim mode, however you want to call it. Each setting kind of disables something, right? We've talked about what each one disables. This disables the touch of the screen and the buttons on the watch. Because when you are swimming, when you are in water, when you're doing things in water, water can actually act similar to touch. It can kind of give a false read that you've touched your screen, and you may have like gone into your Papa John's app and ordered 18 large pizzas and just said auto delivery, and then they show up at your house and you're like, oh, I was in the pool, I didn't know. So you would enable this feature and it would keep the display from accidentally being touched and keep the buttons. So watch what happens. I try to touch the screen, it doesn't go anywhere. I try to squeeze the buttons, it doesn't do anything. It just gives me this message. So I can't accidentally activate Siri. I can't accidentally trigger emergency SOS, which would be a bad thing. So how do I get it out? The display message was right there. It says to turn the digital crown to unlock. So then we just turn it like that, and eventually it unlocks itself. It also vibrates. The vibration you feel is the 2 speakers on here expelling any water that may have gotten in there. Now the water resistancy of an Apple Watch doesn't change whether or not you use this feature. It's just in case water is there and it's sitting and it's not getting to a dry spot, it'll go ahead and expel the water as a precaution to get it out. Do you need to enable it? Not really. You can swim without that feature turned on. I just know that I've like left it on and gone in the pool and looked, and I'm like checking the stocks for like forward, and I'm like, I don't even know how I got here, but the water droplets or maybe bumping against subtle pool activated it and started doing some. So it'll keep that all of that from happening in that mode.
So the watch is waterproof without turning that on?
Yeah, but water resistant we like to call it because there is a limit. There's a limit, but no, it's water resistant with or without that.
It doesn't like salt water though, right?
It's not recommended. They talk about that in the rating, the water resistant rating. Yeah, for like surfers and stuff like that. Like a fall detection?
Yeah. You can't disable that until you get the water out.
Well, you'd have to roll the digital count.
Right.
But, so if you're in swim mode and you've fallen.
Yeah. No, if you're in swim mode and your heart rate goes up.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
It'll send you a warning.
Yeah.
You can't, that happened to me yesterday. Like, you have to get out of the pool, get the water out, and then hit it, or they're going to dial 911.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't take long to get it out of that mode, luckily. So when I enable it, I mean, with a quick roll, I'm out, and then I can do it, and I can engage on my screen again. So I hear you. I'm glad that we were able to get to it. Hopefully, we end with no questions today. That's my goal. They'll probably listen. Okay. Back to control center, keeping it going. Just to knock out the last ones here. So the next one up is a flashlight. What does it do? Turns your display into a bright light that you can then use to help yourself navigate darkness. If you don't have a light in your house, you're trying to find something in a dark area. To get out of flashlight, you can simply press the digital crown, or you can swipe down on the watch and it'll close out the flashlight feature. Airplane mode. If you guys aren't familiar, this basically disables all ingoing and outgoing signals to the watch. So cellulars, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi signals will then be disabled so that it doesn't interfere with communication, and then tapping it again will re-engage all those communications. What will happen to your watch while in airplane mode? You will still be able to tell the time. It'll still act as a watch. It'll still track your heart rate. It'll still get your movements and your exercising. It just will not communicate things to or from the phone or internet or Wi-Fi. That's the only thing it won't do. So you won't get any text messages there during that time.
How do you deactivate that?
So if you enable it, it turns this kind of classic orange. And so right now it reminds me I'm in airplane mode. So I can come back here and then tap it again, and I'm back. I'm connected. Next icon over there, that is Airplay. Now it's a feature that not a lot of people use, but the cool thing about it is if you were on your watch either listening to music because you just went on a run, you had headphones and you listened to the music and you had the connection, or you're on a phone call because you had like your groceries in your hand, you're actually taking that call, and you arrive home where you have smart speakers, internet kind of capable speakers, you can hand off that audio, whether it be music or a phone call, to that speaker by attaching this button. So instead of saying, hey, can I hang up and have you call me back because I want to have you on my kitchen speaker, you could just say, hang on a second, slide it to the crown, and forward the call to the kitchen speaker or the HomePod or whatever that you might have. So if you have that, we'll have that feature. Otherwise, maybe in a few years, that'll be the norm, right? All right. Next one, Walkie Talkie. That's what this guy is. This is Walkie Talkie. This is a feature that you can communicate, short little communication like a Walkie Talkie to other Apple Watch users. And when it's turned yellow, that means your Walkie Talkie is on. So effectively it works this way. If I wanted to have Walkie Talkie abilities with you guys, I would invite you. You'd accept it, and now basically you know my channel. Like if you know on our actual walk, I'm on channel 15. Are y'all on channel 15? Anytime this is on, and you guys said, "Hey, where are you?" it would come out of my watch. Hey, where are you? I've opened myself up to that communication, and then I can reply back, "I'm at work. Please don't disturb me." And then you would hear that. And then I could come here, turn that off, and I've turned my walkie off, is what that basically is doing. I'm still connected to you guys, but my walkie's not on. I turned it off. Now, this is a feature, it's a very luxurious feature. It's not something that anyone uses on a day. It's the range of anywhere because it's not actually direct connect. It's going to use the phone or the cellular to relay that to you.
So if we were sitting here and somebody's on the other side of the mall,
Oh yeah.
you could be.
Oh yeah. I could be home in Mandarin or on vacation. It doesn't matter. The idea of this communication is to communicate when you need to often do it without having to call, hang up, call, hang up, call, hang up with the same person over and over again.
So if I'm connected on the walkie-talkie and she is too,
Yeah.
when you start talking about channels, where are you picking the channels up from?
They're just used. It was more of an analogy based on you only can walkie-talkie people you've invited and accepted. So just because you're in my contact list, or I know that you have an Apple Watch, doesn't mean I can just shout into your Apple Watch anything at any time. You have to establish a connection, say, yes, I trust each other, be enabled, and now you're open.
And how do you do that?
How do you do that?
Establish
It's in the walkie-talkie app. So you'll find it, yeah. It's built in, it's right there. You go there, you invite someone, they accept it, and you're connected. It's useful for things like, you guys are doing things around the house and like someone's in the attic and you're down there and organizing and you just want to be able to quickly communicate things without having to call and answer. Yeah. So test it out if it's something you find use in. I don't use it very often, I'll be honest.
There, but it's not on the.
So in the control panel, when you have the walkie-talkie app, is where you turn it on to, because you don't need to put it on the screen.
Yeah, it's right there, it's in the bubble.
The bubble, so it's not on the.
There you go. Yeah, it's hard to hit them. That's why we'll switch to list view in a moment.
Okay, right.
So that's everything in Control Center. We're going to now talk about the opposite side. So we slid from the bottom to the top. Now we're going to slide from the top to the bottom. Now I don't have any notifications in here, but you guys might have some in there. And what's in here is a list of things that has been alerted to your watch that you haven't acknowledged yet. You may have looked at it and read it, but you haven't responded. You didn't click on it. You just kind of left it there. And that will show up and they'll stay there until you acknowledge them. So if I send a message to you guys and saying, hey, what would you like for dinner? You get it, you see it, but you don't dismiss me nor reply to me. It's going to store it up there in your notifications as a little reminder. If you see me in person and say, hey, you text me about dinner, how about we have Italian? It doesn't know, so you have to clear them out. If you click on it though and reply Italian as a text message, it will be smart enough to realize it and remove it from your notifications list. So 2 ways to clear out notifications, and I wish I had one to show you, but you basically find the notification, you slide your finger from the right side to the left side on the notification, and it'll give you the X to dismiss it. The other way is to do a clear all. And there's a clear all option, so if you got the alert saying, oh, you know, thunderstorms in your area, so-and-so wants to go to dinner, I already talked to him, someone liked my photo on Instagram, great. And there's this huge list of notifications. You can do a clear all. And to do a clear all introduces a new style of interacting with the screen we haven't talked about yet, and that's force touch. Force touch is different from tapping the screen. That's just a regular touch. But pushing on the screen gives you a different response. So if you push on the screen in notifications, you'll get an option to clear all. But of course you have to have notifications in order to do that. You'll get a clear all button. So do you have notifications in yours? Let's see. You feel the little vibrate? Try it again. Hook it out and try again. There you go. That's a clear all, gives you the ability to eliminate the whole thing. If you have an unseen notification in that drawer, you'll know because there'll be a red dot at the top of the watch. That red dot says there's something you haven't seen yet. You get an alert while you were doing your thing and you don't know what it is yet. So you'll slide down and it'll reveal to you what you missed. So it was a missed call or a text, whatever it might be.
Do multiple icons, like if you were in Do Not Disturb?
Yes, it would do like a cycle. It would be like, good question, do you have like a moon, red dot, red dot? It would cycle through them to let you know. But if I press on the watch face, it launches into this, which is a watch face customizer. This allows you to swipe through watch faces either that you've created or are there as defaults to choose a different watch face. It also allows you to hit a big customize button at the bottom of the watch face to change any of the information that is on the watch face. So this is great. It's my alarms up here, my timer here, my workout, and my activity. Very productive watch face, but sometimes you might want to say, well, I don't need any alarms and I don't set any timers. You can go into customize and change those to different things. Each watch face can be customized. Some can be customized, like this one, to have 9 different pieces of info. Some can only have 2 to 3 different things of info. So this is one way you get there. You do a force press on the watch, and then you can customize it. Now the reason I talk a lot about the force touch is there's this assumption in the Apple Watch operating system that you know about this ability. And it tucks away a lot of buttons and settings in this area, assuming you knew that it was there. And if you didn't, you might be missing out on a lot that your watch does.
How do I get out of customize?
Click that button, it'll just go back to your, there you go. So for example, I'm gonna go into the weather app, and there it is, 91, partly cloudy. There's an add city button, but there's no way, well, how do I check like the percentage of rain or a condition? Like, how do I change the parameters? There's no button for that. And anytime you've been wondering, is there not a place to do this on an Apple Watch? I thought there would be. It's probably because it's hidden in that force touch menu. So if I force touch, I get 3 buttons that didn't fit. They just simply didn't fit on the display to give you that content. So Apple tucks them away, and then there they are, rain percentage, condition, and temperature. So I can tap now on that rain percentage, and it switches it to, instead of telling me it's partly cloudy, it's telling me there's a 20% chance of rain. This is everywhere in the watch. This force touch to get new buttons or new settings is built in every place you go. Just another quick example. If I go into messages, I have this on the watch face, it launches into this, which is a watch face customizer. This allows you to swipe through watch faces either that you've created or are there as defaults to choose a different watch face. It also allows you to hit a big customize button at the bottom of the watch face to change any of the information that is on the watch face. So this is great. It's my alarms up here, my timer here, my workout, and my activity. Very productive watch face, but sometimes you might want to say, well, I don't need any alarms and I don't set any timers. You can go into customize and change those to different things. Each watch face can be customized. Some can be customized, like this one, to have 9 different pieces of info. Some can only have 2 to 3 different things of info. But this is one way you get there. You do a force press on the watch, and then you can customize it. Now the reason I talk a lot about the force touch is there's this assumption in the Apple Watch operating system that you know about this ability. And it tucks away a lot of buttons and settings in this area, assuming you knew that it was there. And if you didn't, you might be missing out on a lot that your watch does.
How do I get out of customize?
Click that button, it'll just go back to your, there you go. So for example, I'm gonna go into the weather app, and there it is, 91, partly cloudy. There's an add city button, but there's no way, well, how do I check like the percentage of rain or a condition? Like, how do I change the parameters? There's no button for that. And anytime you've been wondering, is there not a place to do this on an Apple Watch? I thought there would be. It's probably because it's hidden in that force touch menu. So if I force touch, I get 3 buttons that didn't fit. They just simply didn't fit on the display to give you that content. So Apple tucks them away, and then there they are, rain percentage, condition, and temperature. So I can tap now on that rain percentage, and it switches it to, instead of telling me it's partly cloudy, it's telling me there's a 20% chance of rain. This is everywhere in the watch. This force touch to get new buttons or new settings is built in every place you go. Just another quick example. If I go into messages, I have...
Press on my phone.
All right, press and hold your side button to get it to come back on. And then firm press. There you go. You change the list view. Now you have a scrollable list of things. So remember, you can use this, keep your finger on it, and then it allows you to engage with it a little easier. Now back for a moment to the Apple Watch face. Force touching it, hitting customize is not the only way to build out your watch faces and get them to have the content you like. Like on my personal watch face, I have this one, but I have when the sun sets over here, where Apple stock is at, I do have a timer, and the UV level, I just think it's funny to see that it's always like 9 or higher in Florida, always. And then I have a shortcut to music, a shortcut to my activity, and my weather conditions. So it shows like a partly cloudy thing on mine. You can do it from the Force Touch and Customize, but you can also do it from your phone. In the watch app itself, there's an area for managing your watch faces. And there's a Customize button on that, and you can build them out. You can spend an hour getting them exactly how you like them, come back here, and when you Force Touch, there's all the watch faces that you customized on your phone. It might be a little bit easier to do it from there than your wrist. I learned from the wrist because that was the only way at first, so I'm comfortable with that. But if you got to go to the watch face, and I'll kind of show you an example. Look at all these galleries. You can go in here, you can customize them, you can change them up, and then you can add them to your own personal drawer of faces. Which, even so, you can eliminate some of the ones you'll never use. Like they come stock with like 8 or so defaulted ones, but if you're not going to use them, take them off. Remove them from your drawer.
Are there others that are like downloadables, like ringtones?
There are not. There are not. Now, Apple's putting out new ones every time they update the operating system. We got 3 to 4 new ones coming in the fall that they put on our website already, which are really nice, really good ones.
Quick question.
Yep.
Playing with that thing, these 2 icons didn't come back up.
It might because it's been off your wrist this whole time. When it reestablishes like skin contact, it usually gives you more info. I've noticed that with things with particular complications. Okay, it might have taken a minute then. Okay, I'm going to spend some time to end this class with the activity app, and then whatever time we have, we'll just do general questions or recap. So the activity app, this is a big reason Apple Watch owners own Apple Watches, is to track their day-to-day fitness and movement through some goals, through steps and movement and things like that. So there are 3 rings. So if you'll notice this watch hasn't been worn by anybody, so the rings haven't had 0 progress. Your rings might have some progress based on how long you've been wearing it for today. You might not. They're rings, and there's an example of what the rings look like when they're closed. On that wall there's a red, green, and blue ring that has fully come to a circle. That means, in that situation, that they've achieved their goal. So for you, being the first time in here, we're going to skip this because I'm going to teach you all about it. So does this all seem accurate to you? Perfect. We're going to start you off with a light version. You can always change it later. Well, you look like you will need to change it. Look how much you've done so far. You're active today, it looks like. So, real quick, the 3 rings, what they are. The red ring is called the move ring. I'll close out this notification for you. The red ring is the move ring. It's the only ring of the 3 rings that you determine the difficulty of achieving the ring. You set a move calorie goal. It recommended one when you first got your watch. You may have chosen it or upped it or declined it. And when you would hit that goal, if it's 300, let's say it's 360 calories, they have to be active calories. Everyone burns calories doing nothing, but being movement, getting your heart rate, feeling the watch moving, GPS, all that's counting and calculating your movement. And then it is going to close the ring when you burn a set amount of active calories. You've achieved that goal. Congratulations. When you start to achieve that goal day after day after day with little to no effort, it's going to recommend that you raise your goal. And then it's going to make it a little more difficult. So you're going to find that ground where it pushes you but doesn't, where it's not impossible, and you also don't want to just achieve it just because you got up a couple times and checked the mail and you got the goal. So, the green ring. This is the same for everyone. It's the exercise ring. It takes 30 minutes of exercise to close that ring. Exercise is anything brisk walk or higher, so it just needs to feel like you're moving a little bit. You don't have to go on a sprint, you don't have to go hard. It uses heart rate, it uses motion, it uses accelerometers, GPS, everything to figure out that that's a little more than just standard walk and gives you credit. You do not have to get it all at one time. You can get 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. Eventually, the goal is to get 30 minutes total in a day, and you've closed that ring. So let's say we've closed both rings so far, the top 2 rings, we're good. The third ring is the stand ring. And you probably got an alert, it's time to stand, or you did it, you stood. For every hour in the day, you can get credit for 1 point per hour. 12 points, and you close the ring. You get a point simply by standing for a full minute within that hour. So I'm going to get credit for the 12 o'clock hour, and I got credit for the 11 o'clock hour because I was standing at least 1 minute during those 2 hours. So I'll get 2 points myself. The goal and the reason all these exist together, and it's not just a step counter or a calorie counter, is that they all play to each other's strengths and weaknesses. So having a move ring that you can close with just by moving, well, the exercise ring says, well, at least 30 of that minutes needs to be something more than just a simple walk. And then saying, okay, I got up in the morning, 6 a.m., and I went on a 30-minute run. I closed both rings. Now I'm going to sit and watch seasons 1 through 8 of Seinfeld, because nobody watches season 9. Just kidding. I like my battery. I think my battery died. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Dead battery. So, you have to do things in the day also to close the rings. That's why I say it's the hardest ring to close. You could knock out a 30-minute exercise at 11 something at night, realizing the day's almost over, and you're like, oh, I was kind of lazy today. But you can't get credit for hours that don't exist anymore. If you're 6 hours of credit and there's only 3 hours left in the day, you're not closing that ring that day. Like, you missed it. Like, you didn't get credit because you weren't doing it. Probably that 4-hour nap after Golden Corral. Every day you close the rings, you can get achievements, you can get rewards. And it all goes to an app on your phone that looks just like the rings. It unlocked as soon as you paired your phone to your watch to your phone, it unlocked an app with a calendar to be able to go back on any day you wore it to see how you did. How to do my ring? What was my goal then? You can use this to sort of keep yourself active and healthy. It's a separate app from the watch app. It looks like rings. Yep, there it is. You can go back on previous days and see how you did. Now, real quick, if I scroll past those rings, I will get the detailed numeric values of how I am doing. So I've had days moving where I have tripled some of these rings, like the exercise ring 3 times, and I was like, whoa, how much did I do? You can scroll down and say, oh, you did 90 out of 30 minutes, or you're at 599 out of 600. You're so close to your goal, because it might be hard to tell with a ring. So that will give you that, and you can also scroll past that to see a timeline of when you actually achieved it. So if you are either surprised that you did or didn't close a ring, we'll come here and see, well, why? Was it, I closed it because of that great big section here where I was running? Or did I not get my stand goal because of that big chunk where, again, we took that long nap? And if you keep scrolling past that even, you'll get the things like total steps. The distance of those steps equated through GPS. Flights time. All of this stuff will show up there. Apple thinks steps, the distance and stuff is important, but it's at the bottom for a reason. It doesn't tell the story of your activities. 10,000 steps is great, but on low elevation in an 8-seat mall versus high elevation in the mountain trails, 10,000 steps is not 10,000 steps anymore. It's a completely different environment. So that's why we list that there, but we focus more on the goals that are here.
How do you set the goals?
So, if you need to change your goal or set your goal, do a force touch on your rings, and you'll have the ability to change your goal weekly summary. So again, that whole idea of it's assumed that everyone knows to do this, it really is, because there are things you can't do unless you knew to do this. So you can then change it, set a new goal. Your weekly summary is nice, going to let you know how you're doing. Like, am I achieving this goal? Am I underperforming, overperforming, things like that.
So when it looks like it's gone past 360, is
Yeah.
that what it is? So she, it's like corporate TV.
Yeah, you have gotten 63 for 30 minutes, which means to me you have a very aggressive movement because you're only 50% of the way out there. Now we do classes here, more tailored. So if this was the part that was like, yes, that's why I got an Apple Watch. We do health walks. We actually have one today. It's a little hot though. It's a heat wave out there. I don't know if we'll do it. But we talk more about the detail about the workout part, the activity part, and how to relate that to your watch. All right, quick recap, and then we're going to do questions. We talked today about the physical hardware, digital crown, the side button, how to release bands, what the optical sensor looks like, how to tell what watch you have by the underlying writing. We talked about control center, we talked about notification center. We learned about force touch, customizing watches. We talked about what these buttons do when you press them, double test them, hold them, things like that. And we talked a little bit about the activity features of Apple Watch as far as tracking or movement. So, we'll leave the remaining 7.5 minutes for whatever you guys want to ask or to get a jump on lunch specials that might be happening in Town Center.